Dr. Mwikwabe Waitara.
Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, nakushukuru sana kwa nafasi. Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, kwanza tunashukuru Mheshimiwa Rais. Jana amefanya jambo kubwa sana la kuongeza mshahara wa watumishi wa umma. Ukisoma kwenye mitandao kila mahali wanasema pochi la mama wa taifa limetema. Na wakisema pochi limetema maana yake mambo ni mazuri mwaka huu. Kwa hiyo hongera sana Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kazi nzuri sana. Lakini jambo la pili nitaka nimshukuru sana wizara. Kuanzia kwa Mheshimiwa Biteko alipokuwa katika wizara hiyo na Mheshimiwa Mvunde umeanzia pale alipoishia Dr. Biteko, na Mheshimiwa Msukuma amezungumza mambo ni mazuri kule Tarime. Ndio uone ile hasira ya kuvua koti hapa, ndio maana mambo ni mazuri Tarime vijijini kwa bariki. Ni wakati nalalamika hapa bungeni Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, siku ile ilikuwa eneo la Mlwambe na Nyamichere wanatakiwa walipo kifuta jasho, na majibu ya serikali hayakuwa mazuri. Tulipotofautiana hapo tukagombana, tukakaa kwenye vijiji, tukakaa kwenye vikao, wale wenye inti kile kifuta jasho wamelipwa. Lakini vile vile hapa tunapozungumza Mheshimiwa Vunde ameshanipa ratiba kwamba kesho tarehe 3 mwezi wa 5 2025 atakuwa Ingwe Sekondari. Wameunda vikundi 47, vijana zaidi ya 1700, anaenda kukabidhi leseni ya wachimbaji wadogo ili wafanye kazi ya uchimbaji wasigombane mgodi wa bariki. Hayo Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti ni mafanikio makubwa sana Mheshimiwa Mavunde, na kuombea wabunge hao wapitishe haraka bajeti twende kule Bariki North Mara ukabidhi leseni kwa vijana wa Nyamongo na Tarime vijijini, kazi iendelee na tuweze kusonga mbele. Lakini pia Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, mahusiano kwa kweli yameimarika sana kati ya halmashauri, wananchi ambao wanazunguka mgodi kwa maana viongozi wale, lakini pia wizara na mimi kama mbunge wa eneo lile. Kwanza kumekuwa na vikao vya mara kwa mara, mpaka rais wa Bariki mwenyewe anaingia mtaani anakutana na viongozi wa vijiji. Maana yake wale wanaofanya kazi katika mgodi, vile vikundi vya kina mama, wajasiriamali, makampuni binafsi wameshatoa fedha, wamepump out fedha kwenye eneo lile zaidi ya bilioni 65 ambazo watu binafsi wanazungusha katika shughuli mbalimbali. Zamani hata mchele ulikuwa unatoa South Africa. Sasa hivi mchele unauza kina mama wadogo wadogo pale Nyamongo na biashara yao inaendelea kukua. Hayo mahusiano hapo kabla Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti hayakuwepo. Lakini vile vile mgodi umeendelea kulipa. Ninapozungumza kwenye halmashauri Tarime vijijini wameshalipa kodi ya ushuru wa huduma zaidi ya shilingi bilioni 21.6. Lakini wameshalipa vijiji. Mimi nimeingia madarakani tangu mwaka 95 walikuwa wanagombana na mgodi, vile vijiji vitano vilipo 100%. Hawalikuwa hawajai kulipwa. Wameanza kulipwa 2023. Ninapozungumza hapa leo wana shilingi bilioni 6.8 kwenye akaunti za vijiji vitano vinavyozunguka ule mgodi. Sasa haya ni mafanikio makubwa, na kesho nimeambia pia Mheshimiwa Waziri atakabidhi hapa 100% nyingine katika vijiji vile. Maana yake hizi fedha zikisimamiwa vizuri, viongozi wa vijiji, madiwani, vijiji 11 kata 5 wakapanga vipaumbele, strategy katika maeneo yale, atakuja mwenyekiti wa kijiji kuanza kuomba tena kwa mshauri zahanati wakati na bilioni 1.7 katika kaunti ya kijiji. Haya mafanikio makubwa ndio tulifanya yawepo ili watu waweze kupata huduma kubwa. Lakini mgodi huu vile vile Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti umetoa huduma mbalimbali katika jamii. Kama kuna shida kwenye zahanati, kwa mfano pale Nyangutu walikusanya makampuni yanafanya kazi pale mgodini, wakapeleka fedha zaidi ya milioni 62, wamepeleka vifaa vya kina mama na mtoto support. Tunajenga nyumba ya mama na mtoto pale zaidi ya bilioni 350. Kwa hiyo mambo yote Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti ndio mambo tulitamani yawepo kwa muda mrefu, na nashukuru na leo uongozi wangu na wenzangu haya mambo yameweza kufanikiwa. Lakini hizi fedha za maendeleo Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti sasa zimesambaa katika jimbo zima. Nina jimbo ambalo na kata 26 walikuwa wananufaika kata 5 vijiji 11. Ninapozungumza hapa kata zote 26 kuna miradi ya maendeleo kutokea na fedha ya CSR. Na pia vijiji vinavyozunguka wenyewe wana zaidi ya milioni 291 kila kijiji. Kwa hiyo ni kijiji cha waseme nini wanahitaji katika eneo lao kwa vipaumbele kupitia mikutano ya vijiji waweze kufanya kazi nzuri sana. Leo unapozungumza hapa kwa Tarime vijijini, pale Nyamongo tunajenga soko la dhahabu zaidi ya milioni 800 kwa kuanzia. Lakini ukiona Nyamwaga Makomoko halmashauri tunajenga stendi na soko kwa awamu. Lakini mwenyekiti, zipo kata ambazo tunajenga jengo la mama na mtoto kama pale Kiuruba milioni 180, tunajenga zahanati pale Mangucha Nyanungu milioni 120, tunajenga pale Nyabirongo Susuni zahanati milioni 120, tunajenga pale Kuitiro Kitakasembe milioni 120 zahanati, tunalima barabara kule Susuni kwa masista milioni 150, tunajenga daraja pale Nyantare Goronga, tunajenga zahanati miradi ipo pale online inafanya kazi za shilingi bilioni 9.64 zinafanya kazi. haya mambo mheshimiwa mwenyekiti yakifanyika vizuri, malalamiko yatapungua sana katika maeneo haya. Changamoto zipo mheshimiwa waziri asikilize. Moja, amesema mheshimiwa Sukuma, hii miradi yote bilioni 9 ambayo inaendelea na Geita bilioni 23. Mwenyekiti, kuna double standard. Ndugu yangu wa Nyang'hwale hapa na watu wa Kahama, wao miradi hii inatekelezwa kupitia halmashauri, mgodi unalipa. Lakini mimi Tarime na kule Geita kwa kina Msukuma, mgodi ndio unatekeleza miradi. Serikali imetoa mwongozo, darasa moja lijengwa kwa milioni 25 pale Tarime. Darasa moja ni shilingi milioni 37 kinyume na mwongozo wa serikali. Lakini vile mwenyekiti, miradi mingi itapunguzwa kwa sababu nyumba shilingi milioni 100 watajenga 150 kwa kupitia mkandarasi. Kwa tunaomba mheshimiwa waziri, mwongozo ule utekeleze. Mgodi hauna kazi ya kujenga madarasa, kuchimba visima, kujenga choo. Kazi yao ni uchimbaji na operations. Ile kazi ya kusimamia miradi iachiwe halmashauri. Mgodi ufanye kazi ya malipo ili uweze kudili na operations. Ikitokea changamoto katika halmashauri zetu, alafu mgodi utaacha kutekeleza miradi, utaenda kwenye operations. Ili mheshimiwa waziri ilifanyia kazi sana. Changamoto ya pili Tarime vijijini, ambayo utaenda utaruhusu kesho, ni fidia. Kuna changamoto mheshimiwa mwenyekiti ya malipo ya ardhi katika maeneo yetu. Sasa maeneo yale mgodi unatekeleza malipo kwa gani ambavyo mdhamini mkuu wa serikali amepeleka malipo yake. Unalipa fedha kidogo sana. Pale ukienda Mruambe kuna malalamiko, Nyamichere kuna malalamiko, Kumalera kuna malalamiko, Kiwanja kuna malalamiko, Nyakunguru kuna malalamiko pale mpaka Nyambichune mpaka Matongo, fedha inayolipwa ni kidogo. Mgodi unasema mkituambia tulipe kilomita moja milioni 7-10 tutalipa. Yeye mmewaambia walipe milioni 5. Leta sheria hapo ibadilike ili watu walipo ardhi yao kulingana na ambacho kipo chini ya ardhi ile, ili kupunguza mgogoro na malalamiko ya wananchi. Na kuna hoja mheshimiwa mwenyekiti, waziri ufanyie kazi sana. Ile fidia mnaolipa haisaidii wananchi. Kwa nini mwananchi asipewe share na mgodi? Kama mtu anakuja anachimba eneo hili unanihamisha, wewe baada ya kulipa fidia, tuingie kwenye shareholder. Pale Tarime Nyamwaka una mzee Msabi analipa mabilioni ya fedha, amekuwa tajiri mkubwa, yeye hakupokea fedha kujengea nyumba, aliingia shareholder. Mgodi ukichimba nyingi anapata mgao mkubwa. Mgodi ukipata kidogo
taarifa mwenyekiti. Taarifa mwenyekiti.
Kwa hiyo tuombe mwenyekiti
taarifa.
Mheshimiwa Waitara, kutokana na muda, hitimisha hotuba yako. Muda wako ulishaisha. Asante na kuomba radhi.
Mheshimiwa mwenyekiti, niseme tu kwamba kwangu mimi kama mbunge wa jimbo la vijijini, mgodi umefanya kazi nzuri sana. Wizara imefanya kazi nzuri sana. Nitoa wito kwa wananchi wa Tarime vijijini waliopata fedha hizi, na hata vijiji vile 11 hawana sababu ya kulalamika. Wakipata mgao wa fedha kuna sema serikali, waende kwa mikutano ya wananchi, wapange miradi kulingana na vipaumbele na mahitaji ya wananchi. Inawezekana wakapiga hatua kubwa zaidi na maisha ya wananchi pale yakabadilika na wakaimarisha mahusiano mazuri sana. Mheshimiwa waziri, karibu sana kesho Nyamongo tufanye kazi ya kutoa leseni kwa vijana wale wafanye kazi ya uchimbaji. Naunga mkono bajeti hii kwa 100%. Asante sana.
Asante. Mheshimiwa Mwita nakushukuru. Mheshimiwa Huseni, nakuomba radhi, niliona ulihitaji kutoa taarifa lakini kwa bahati mbaya muda wetu umekwisha. Nakuomba radhi sana. Waheshimiwa bunge, tutaendelea na majadiliano kutoka kwa michango kutoka kwa waheshimiwa bunge, na hotuba hii itahitimishwa na mtoa hoja leo alasiri. Na atambua kwamba leo ni siku ya Ijumaa na nimepewa maelekezo mahususi kabisa na katibu wa chama cha wabunge wote wa Chama cha Mapinduzi kuzingatia utaratibu wetu wa kupitisha bajeti. Saa 11 jioni wabunge wote tuwepo ndani ya ukumbi. Wachangiaji wetu wa mchana ambao tutaendelea nao ni Mheshimiwa Tumaini Bryson Magesa, Mheshimiwa Constantine John Kanyasu, Mheshimiwa Martha Festo Mariki, Mheshimiwa Nicodemus Henry Maganga, Mheshimiwa Tabasamu Hamisi Mwagao, Mheshimiwa Masache Njelu Kasaka, Mheshimiwa Sebastian Simon Kapufi, Mheshimiwa Riziki Saidi Lulida, Mheshimiwa Profesa Shukrani Elisha Manya na Mheshimiwa Daimu Idi Mpakate. Utaratibu wa uchangiaji ni kama ambavyo nimetamka. Wale ambao wametajwa mwanzoni wahakikishe kwamba wanakuwepo kwa wakati huo. Basi baada ya matangazo haya ninasitisha bunge mpaka saa 11 alasiri.
Na bunge limesitishwa na litarejea tena majira ya saa 11 jioni. Hapo mapema Spika wa Bunge Dr. Tulia Ackson kwa niaba ya bunge amempongeza Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan kwa hatua aliyochukua hapo jana wakati wa maadhimisho ya siku ya wafanyakazi duniani ambayo kitaifa yalifanyika mkoani Singida kwa kupandisha mshahara kima cha chini kwa asilimia 35.1 sawa na shilingi 370 kutoka 370 kwenda shilingi 500,000. Lakini pia waziri wa madini Anthony Mavunde ameliomba bunge kuidhinisha zaidi ya shilingi bilioni 224.9 kwa ajili ya wizara na taasisi zilizo chini ya wizara yake kwa mwaka wa fedha 2025-2026, na majadiliano yanaendelea na yataendelea hapo majira ya saa 11 za jioni. Kwa niaba ya wote, jina langu Anet Endro.
People are monitoring and saying, Your Excellency, you said this last year and you have repeated it again. And if you look at a file we gave to you or through your CS or whoever, maybe it is economic advisors, we are seeing the number growing every day. Those advisors must really, again, deal with the value for money thing. So you are being paid to do what? What is it that you are helping Kenyans to respond to? Whereas the questions that we are asking, where we think that your good brains and your presence, capacity and technical expertise can actually help us in generating innovative solutions to those problems.
All right. Ken, last year's theme for Labor Day was labor export, because like I said earlier, the Kenya Kwanza government is keen on trying to create jobs abroad, right? The remittances that we get from diaspora, does the country capitalize on them? Because there's increased labor export, meaning that there's flow of money that comes in. So does the country capitalize on such funds to help Kenyans or to help the country locally from those remittances?
Well, diaspora remittances have been a significant revenue flow for the country. It's about $5 billion as we speak, and half of it is coming from the United States. So these are Kenyan men and women working in hospitals, working as engineers. These tend to be high-quality jobs. But if you really look at the Kenya labor export strategy, it's really not speaking to those economies. It's speaking to your, as Jeff had said, your Saudi Arabia. It's speaking to Myanmar. And the Standard did an excellent coverage of Kenyans in Myanmar and the insane jobs they're having to do. So there's a disconnect, and I think most fundamentally, the world is going through an anti-globalization phase. So most countries are nationalizing, most countries are inwardly looking. Even if you look at Germany, and I like they mentioned about Germany, the Germany under Angela Merkel is very different from the Germany of today. The Germany that was very open to migrants now is not so much. If you look at the US under Trump's policies, yesterday they showed that the lowest number of immigrants came in from Mexico in America's history. So countries are moving towards inward looking. Countries are asking, why are immigrants coming and we have unemployed people? So if there was ever a worst time to export labor to Europe, to UAE, to US, is now. Because most countries actually focusing, taking the America First policy in their own respective jurisdiction. So first of all, the timing is terrible. And number two, the jobs that are being created is not those high quality jobs in the US. It's not your software developer at Microsoft who's who's earning $100,000. The jobs we are seeing in the news are house helps in Saudi Arabia who are being tortured, is scammers in Myanmar who are being electrocuted to scam people. So these are jobs that do not provide dignity, do not provide skills transfer, do not provide a lot of things. So we do not need to export labor. We can produce enough in our country. If you look at the items we export to the US, now that somebody talked about the tariffs, one of our biggest exports is apparel. So somebody is working in Athi River, in an EPZ, and they're exporting apparel, jeans, to top brands in the US. You know, these are the Levi's, the Wranglers. And Kenyans are asking, if we can provide such high-quality textiles to the American market, why is it that Kenya is the #1 mitumba economy? Actually, it's the #1 mitumba economy in Africa. It has even exceeded Nigeria, which has a population of 4.5 times its size.
But Ken, we tried banning that, and Kenyans were not for it. Yes.
Who was not for it?
Kenyans were like, they tried banning the importation of mitumba, but now the people that import those clothes to sell for Kenyans have a problem with it. Well, so the problem, I think, is within ourselves.
It's not within ourselves, because the issue is the cost of local production is very expensive. So if somebody wants a nice outfit, they are unlikely to go to a mall, because maybe that outfit may be 3,000 shillings, when they can go and get a mitumba for 600, 700 shillings. So it's a question of the purchasing power of Kenyans. Most Kenyans actually will tell you they want to support Kenyan designers. They want to support Kenyan fashionistas, but the cost of their products is much, much higher. So we need to ask ourselves, why is our cost of production high? Is it the electricity costs that are high? We need to reduce it. Is it the labor cost? It's not labor cost, because Kenyans are saying they're not getting that money. So we just need to make our manufacturing system have less taxes, less cost of energy. So if you're a fashion designer and you can create a nice outfit, Kenyans can afford it. Because Kenyans say that I love that outfit, but it's way beyond what I can afford. So it's more of a macro situation. So if we can create jobs, so the people working in those textile industries are earning high quality jobs, have good income, even they can support other local producers. So it's not that Kenyans don't want local produce, it's just the price differential sometimes is very, very high.
And probably, Grace, in addition to that is that is really what is available. So you have people who went with Today's University many years ago in the mitumba industry, and they wake up from their homes to go and sell mitumba. And so you get there and they're like, bado tunangojea bail inakuja, you know. Yet we're talking about governments, the One National and the 47s, who have also very extensively talked about the county aggregation industrial parks. What is the essence of putting up parks that are not responsive to the needs of the people? So that we look at the counties, for example, and we say, national government, in your different departments and ministries, departments and agencies, where are these macro produce from every counties, whether they are tea growers, coffee growers, etc. Then we link them to the aggregation parks, and then ultimately we talk about the value chain. Can we be able to get markets? So that it is the responsibility of national government to look for markets abroad, other than now allowing for these mitumbas to get into the country. And across the board now, I think in the former regions, we have almost an area, we have the export processing, the EPZs. What is really the essence of those particular, very high-level productivity value chain measures if we cannot be able to utilize them? So again, going back to the conversations, we must be able to invest in proper research on what we have. I'm sure that research is available. The opportunities that we have in the country, I am sure that research or the data about that is also available. But then the political goodwill to do what is in the letter and its spirit. And ultimately, Kenyans will not be struggling. Sometimes you go to some of these embassies and high commissions and look at the heavy lanes of people waiting for passports, waiting for visas, waiting for, against the cost of getting these visas, which sometimes 8 years, you keep applying and you're doing your mitumba work or you're doing your boda to raise money to go and pay to an embassy to get visas. So the government, especially in the spirit of Labor Day, has to be very, very conscious around the environment, and particularly relating this to other sectors like the education. So what are we training in our schools, and what is available in our environments? You go to Kisii, for example, and the heavy market of soapstone along the road from Kisii town all the way to Migori. You will find people in small networks selling soapstones, very nicely done, you know, dishes, cups, and even spoons, you know. And you're like, kwa nini hii hamwezi jitengeneza kwa, you know, a group and then you export it? And you're like, you know, the cost of doing business, registering that network is very expensive, and appear training. They don't have capacity training and technical support, which in my view, all these institutions, and as Ken talks about the National Employment Authority, this is an agency of government that I'm sure has capacity to tell us which kind of expertise do we have locally, and where is it in the global market, the global sphere, and what value can Kenya get? So that if it is about getting expatriates to come and train our local men and women here, let's do it. So 1 week you are in a training, this person goes back home, and then we monitor the skills transfer. But again, part of this, as I finish, is the politicization of the labor market. To a level where mwanasiasa anasimama anasema, we will not ensure that teachers are promoted unless they pass through us. Who told you that? Must it be politicized? Allow people who are qualified to do the work which they have been trained to do, and through that, I'm sure that the country's economic growth will spur, and as it spurs, the self-reliance that we are talking about today is in today's Labor Day will actually be felt by that common work.
All right, so you're trying to say that we have a lot with us.
Of course, the potential is immense.
All right, so when we keep on talking about labor export, like I said, it's one of the programs by the Kenya Kwanza government. One of the local dailies highlighted the Qatar police jobs fiasco. And of course, it's in the infiltration of rogue recruitment agencies into a government's program. And maybe if I can just read, it says, Kenyans desperate for jobs abroad are losing their cash to rogue recruitment agencies. These untouchable architects of the con games continue to rip off victims lured by false promises of a breakthrough in life. Right? These untouchable architects that are penetrating through a government's program. And this is not the first time that when we are having such fiascos, such people that are being, you know, highlighted as rogue agencies. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where these untouchable people that have no names and heads are going to ever be caught, so that all this mess comes to an end?
I think it has been said that some of these cartels are connected to the Ministry of Labor. It comes up very, very many times that these are senior officials who have side businesses that connect people to these jobs. It's one thing to connect people to jobs, and indeed when you fly to a city like Doha, right from the airport, the person at the airport most likely will be a Kenyan. If you go to Dubai, the person at your hotel, the person at the reception, the person cleaning the swimming pool will be a Kenyan. And so Kenya, first of all, we have to take pride that Kenya has had a very good human capital. The best thing Kenya has is our human capital. We may not have gold or oil, but we do have a very good human capital that is highly respected across the world. The fact that we cannot professionalize these, even if you say you're going to export labor, we cannot professionalize that sector and say, first of all, they need to show you the job descriptions. Number two, there needs to be a process. The fact that there's no regulation, I think for me, shows that there's a big demand for cash by cartels that want to do it, and they don't have accountability. Once you're in those cities, your employer can easily take your ID, can take your passport, and you're really left to your own devices. So the fact that we can, it shows that there's a huge profit motive within the cartels that want to keep it as it is. I think it's a major source of revenue income. And again, it goes back to the bigger question, which even Kevin talked about, is what is the quality of jobs in our public sector? Because public sector people can only engage in corruption if they're not getting proper salaries. So if I'm an official at the Ministry of Labor, the only reason I will engage in such activities is maybe what I'm earning in my 9 to 5 is not meeting my requirements. So I'm told, oh, actually, there's like a plan that you can do so. Go to the Kenya police. And that's the reason you go to the US, to the UK, it's very difficult to bribe a policeman. Because if you look at the package a policeman in Denmark has, I mean, they would not even want to touch a bribe with a 50-foot pole, because it comes with benefits, it comes with education for your children, it comes, whether it's the military, there's so much prestige. So I think for me, if we want to cure issue of corruption and things such as what we are seeing right now, we need to make sure that we are providing quality environment to the public sector, the policeman, the city council worker. It's only when they have a proper lifestyle that they'll take their job seriously and they'll say no to these other money-making initiatives, which at the end of the day is for their benefit. So I think that's a fundamental question. What is the nature of our public sector? And lastly, Grace, I'll remind you of a big, there was a big commission of inquiry that I think it was in the 80s that allowed public servants to participate in business. I think we really need to review that clause, that commission, because now, at that time, it was meant maybe because public service employees were low, their salaries were low, so it allowed you an opportunity to engage in business. But what it has become now, it has become an avenue for corruption. So I think we need to make sure, like in countries like China, you're either in the public sector or in the private sector. You cannot be both. You have to choose, and we need to make sure we provide our public servants with the best possible packages and tell them now we can no longer tolerate people trying to come up with money-making schemes, because there's no excuse. We are given a very good package all the way till retirement. I think once we do that, we'll see the corruption and all these money-making schemes are disappearing.
All right, Kevin, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, precisely. And again, it goes back to our architecture as a people, that you don't have to have your own in government for your people to be employed, and especially in the public sector. So if we can be able to do a few things, which I'm sure as part of the CS speech, because this is part of what was captured in the communique that we submitted to the CS Mutua when he attended the meeting that we organized with the trade unions. Recognition, you know, promotions, there has to be a mechanism through which all this is being done. So that even as somebody is busy, as a worker is busy doing his or her responsibilities and those duties, at least there is a scale and a timeline at which you know that when I work here for say 6 to 8 years, I am going to be promoted. As it is right now, these spaces they look like a preserve to the politicians, and especially our legislators, and of course even those who are in the executive, who are the implementers. So if we can be able to also think through how we motivate, how we promote, and also how we recognize workers who are delivering up to the optimal level, I believe that will be critical. Number two is government engagement with workers and also employers. And one of those issues that was raised during our meeting was the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the levels of concerns or interference, especially when it comes to the collective bargaining agreements, that workers or trade unions will bargain and negotiate with the employers, but when it comes to ultimate payroll conversations, the employer would rather use the SRC rates and the levels. So you ask yourself, what is the spirit of the CBA? Is it not supposed to be a tool of conversations and negotiations between the worker and also the employer, so that within this space of engagement, you're able to underscore levels of productivity that will also be pleasing to the employer? But that is not the kind of conversation that we are having today, which therefore begs the question around the space of intergovernmental relationships, and even as Ken talks about NEA, so the role of Foreign Affairs Ministry as we do this labor export thing through the Kazi Maju Kenya Kwanza program. Where is the space of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and then now Diaspora Affairs, because diaspora remittances as well, where, for instance, now the safety of Kenyans who have been exported or taken to these other countries are at risk. And you see every day how families grapple grapple with the pain of bringing back dead bodies of their relatives. They can't even pay, you know, air ticket is this and all that. And at in some instances, the government is almost unable to respond. So a lot of things that, in my view, opportunities like Labor Day really give us a chance to be able to present these concerns and therefore address them, so that both workers, the government, and also employers feel like all our sides and all our concerns are actually being met.
But Kevin, as I said earlier, some of these concerns that we as workers are supposed to submit on Labor Day,
yes,
they have been submitting throughout, even
yes,
maybe throughout that year. Perhaps just yesterday, clinical officers on strike,
yes,
teachers go on strike, and they, whatever they're calling for, must we wait until we have an event like this for those things, for their pleas to actually be actualized?
And Grace, that is purely where the issue is, the lack of this engagement platform, which is why I liked the political question.
But we see them in boardrooms. They have agreed.
Which is why I liked the political question that Noah asked Jeff about the leadership of KOTU. Because that leadership, based on the numbers, based on the capacity that the trade unions, particularly KOTU, have on the strength of the other trade unions, they must see value for the leadership. But if it is a leadership that is going to be dancing, like now we see the dancing is going on, that's an opportunity for
Samoei Ruto. I want to assure you that today I will be very, very brief, because in your position as our president, you have all information concerning the working men and women across our country. I want to recognize the cabinet secretary. I want to recognize your prime cabinet secretary, Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. I want to thank him also to have taken time to accompany you. I want also to recognize my own minister, or cabinet secretary, Minister of Labor, Social Protection, Mheshimiwa Dr. Alfred Mutua. All cabinet secretaries present, the Principal Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection, State Department for Labor, Honorable Shadrach Mwangolo Mwadime, the Principal Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection, State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, Mheshimiwa Joseph Mogosi Motari. I want to recognize the Executive Director of the Federation of Kenya Employers, Sister Jacqueline Mugo, accompanied by her able president of the organization. Other principal secretaries present, ambassadors and high commissioners, managing trustee of our National Social Security Fund, Brother David Koros, the acting director general of the Industrial Training Authority, nowadays is known as NITA, National Industrial Training Authority, Sister Teresa Wasike. Other dignitaries present, members of the executive board of KOTU, members of our secretariat, our brothers led by Brother Eid Marcel from Cairo, Egypt, who leads the giant Egyptian Trade Union Federation, who are here with us. You are most welcome. Your Excellency, first and foremost, as I said, I will be very brief. I want to take this opportunity to thank you. We can't take it for granted. You were with us here last year. And since you were elected as our president, you have respected your position as a worker number one. And you have been with us all the time that workers have assembled here. You have shared this International Labor Day with us. Your Excellency, we are celebrating also our 60th
anniversary. We have been around for 60 years. And in these 60 years, Your Excellency, I have been around as the leader of labor movement in this country for 24 years. And recently, Your Excellency, when we were with you in Nyanza, I did mention that you are my last president for me to serve. I have served all presidents of the Republic of Kenya. And I also assured shop stewards recently that as you see me here, I'm contemplating to exit. But then, because we have democracy, and there are people who are watching what we are doing, whether we are responsive to workers' needs or not, a section of my executive board met and gave another resolution, and they are confident in me. But I want to assure them, as much as we have heard our song, which says our solidarity is forever, we call ourselves brothers and sisters. This does not mean that as we enter into the new year, that it will be only Atuoli who can be able to lead labor movement. Our organization is democratic. We are free and independent. And among our affiliates, 42 of them, they know your capabilities, those who are affiliates, your abilities to articulate issues concerning working men here and across the globe, and they will make a decision, and we will respect their decision. Your Excellency, our this year's theme is self-reliance in production is the key to economic growth. Your Excellency, unless we are in producing, unless we are in manufacturing, unless we are attracting foreign exchange, our economy can hardly grow. But if we produce and we support you towards that direction, we will be in a position to spur economic growth and create more employment for our young men and women. Your Excellency, as Kenyan workers, we remain alive to the fact that global political trends largely affect market dynamics and the prospects for growth and employment creation. Some of the problems that face us are not only unique to us here, but some are global. But if we are together with you, Your Excellency, if we work hard, if we produce more, we can overcome all these global economic challenges. Without a doubt, the election of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America and his consequent policies that are focused on building and manufacturing capabilities of the U.S. through self-reliance and imposition of tariffs call for all of us to relook and to rethink twice how we can be free and independent economically. Your Excellency, this year's Labor Day celebration is a special one because Kenyan workers will be marking 60th years of anniversary, as I have said. And we have made a remarkable achievement. Wewe mwenyewe umeona wafanyikazi wakipita hapa mbele yako. Umeona zile vitu wanafanya viwandani. Umeona kazi zao. Umeona commitment yao. Na wewe ndio mlinzi wao. You are the chair of our industrial relations practice in this country. And therefore, as you sit, as you look at them, I know you think well about Kenyan workers. Indeed, as I said, we will support you towards any route you take in enhancing and protecting workers' rights in this country as a champion of social justice, number one. Your Excellency, on outsourcing, Your Excellency, one of the biggest problems that your government faces in meeting its revenue collection target is outsourcing of labor that has become a very common among the Kenyan employers. As Kenyan workers, we appeal to your government to institute action that will ensure that workers are covered by collective bargaining agreements as it is practiced world over. And the outsourced people have an opportunity to contribute to our revenue through statutory deductions as other permanent employees. Your Excellency, we can also foster self-reliance in production, particularly in key sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and also supporting micro, small, and medium enterprises. As I said, Your Excellency, I don't want to take a lot of your time. Kwa ajili sijui umetubebea nini, naweza ongea sana na urudi na ile kitu umebebea wa Kenya. Your Excellency, you have seen the textile industry here. It is our wish that we support our textile industry. Because when we were growing, we had Kikomi, we have Raymond, we have Rivertex, we had Thika, textile milling machines. We had everywhere in Kenya, we were producing textile materials. We need to go back there, Your Excellency, and will support you to create more employment. Lastly, I shouldn't say last, but second or third to last, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Last week you went to China, and we in Central Organization of Trade Unions, we work closely with all Chinese Federation of Trade Unions. And Chinese, Your Excellency, most of them are genuine and they support Africa genuinely. But since our policy, foreign policy, and our Kenya's policies of an alignment, we work with every nation. But I want to thank you for your trip to China. We will be able to realize more, particularly the agreement you signed to address the dual carriageway from Nairobi towards Western Kenya, and also to extend SGR. SGR is one of the important routes that will alleviate transport problems facing Kenyans. The other area I want to mention, President, that I cannot sit down without mentioning this. This is an area of patriotism. This one I will talk, and I will talk as a patriotic Kenyan until I go to the grave. I'm appealing to Kenyans, Your Excellency. We must love this country. We have no any other country. If this country went down to dogs, we have no any exit route. Kenyans are watching their television. They should look what is happening in Bukavu, in what is happening in Goma. Pali Muda anatoka na watoto na kondoo, wanafika kwa njia, wana abandon kondoo, anarudi kwa watoto yake na wajafika pahali wanaenda. This is not the route we want to take. But Your Excellency, one day you Kenyans will remember me. If we don't regulate social media, if we don't, in China where you have been, it is regulated. With a population of about 1.4 billion people. In Dubai, it is regulated. In UK, it is regulated. In US, it is regulated. Kenya cannot be free for all. Kenya can't. You see, that is the patriotism that we must follow. Your Excellency, I want to appeal to you also to apply reforms in public institutions like posts, those postal cooperation, to make sure that it is effective. Because if you look at Amazon, which does the same job in the US, it does very well. We want to make sure that that one is handled well. We support also, Your Excellency, the issue of leasing our sugar industries. They must not remain moribund. They must be seen producing sugar for our own Kenyan, for our own consumption and export for purposes of creating employment. We must support you so that we can be able to create employment. Lastly, Your Excellency, I want to appeal to you. This city belongs to all of us. And this city must reflect other cities of the world. This city must reflect Accra, Ghana. This city must reflect Abuja in Nigeria. This city must reflect Kigali in Rwanda. This city must reflect Abidjan in Ivory Coast. We cannot remain in a filthy city, a city of hawkers, a city of riders, a city of matatus, and when somebody arrives at the airport on Mombasa Road, is full of hawkers depicting the picture of poverty of Kenya. This must come to an end, and we are appealing to the national government to team up with the county government and make sure that we have a city. Let landlords paint their buildings, repair their pavements, and make sure Nairobi, we reclaim our lost glory of this international city. Your Excellency, we support your housing problem, and we appeal, since we are represented on that board, that workers should use their pay slips. Workers have no money for deposit. We can use our pay slips. I appeal to you to go towards that route, Your Excellency. The other area, Your Excellency, I want to appeal to you. I want to assure you, not to appeal. I am sitting on SHA board representing workers. And I want to show Kenyans that SHA is working. SHA is now working. Lastly, Your Excellency, I want to support the managing trustee, Koros, of NSSF. He has done a commendable job. He has done very well. And as I'm talking, since we implemented the new act, NSSF has realized 220 billion for Kenyans, and we must rally behind the managing trustee of the NSSF. Lastly, Your Excellency, we have a problem. You saw workers here with placards saying, let us carry out ratification on ILO Convention number 189 to protect our domestic workers. Let us also ratify ILO Convention 190 to stop both domestic harassment and violence at workplace. These two conventions have been ratified world over. And Your Excellency, you need to talk also to the Federation of Kenya Employers. You are our person. Let them give us support in this direction. Your Excellency, you need also to talk to the Federation of Kenya Employers. That when you gave these workers 6%, to date is not fully implemented. I'm telling you for free and for sure. And there is no any time His Excellency the President has announced the year salary increase and then it becomes a subject of debate. And when it comes to ILO Convention, it will be your government that will be accused at the International Labour Organization. It will not be COTU, it will not be the Federation of Kenya Employers or anybody else. So anybody frustrating the ratification of ILO 189 and Convention 190 is frustrating your government. Anybody who doesn't want that 6% you gave us to be fully implemented, he's not frustrating workers, but he's frustrating the government. I would have gone on and on, Your Excellency, but as I said, I don't want to get you tired. I want to repeat that please, we want to live in a peaceful country, address issues of social media, address issues that are afflicting these workers. If you have something, Your Excellency, the cost of living in this country is at around 45%, and that is too high for them. This is caused with some dynamics of variations in economic performance and some global also economic situation that affect us as well. Your minister has tried what he can, but I will assure you, please go to his rescue, try to make sure that these workers are properly compensated. And more so, Your Excellency, what is eating in our jobs are free riders, people who are employed through the back door, outsourced at a lower rate. They don't pay taxes. They don't contribute to collective bargaining agreement. There is no any agreement binding on them. They are slaves in our industries, enslaved by employers, and Kenya as a free country can sit and see people outsourcing people. A company retrenches people, it asks its supervisor to form a company of exploitation. This can't be allowed in free Kenya. We can't allow that. Under your watch. As I promised the President, I want to be very brief because we will be talking. May I take this opportunity to invite your Honorable Minister for Labor, Dr. Muda, who will be able to give some few words and observe protocol, other protocols for you to come and say. The other thing I'm being reminded by my deputy that I had forgotten, ni mambo ya hizi vitu tunakatwa, housing, nini, taxation. It should not be on gross salary. Hizi vitu natakana viwe on basic, so that gross, umefanya overtime, umefanya nini, it's not interfered with. And I know Your Excellency will look at that. All deductions, salary deductions, statutory deductions should be at basic, not on gross, where somebody might have toiled very hard to work on overtime and he doesn't realize something. Mwisho, Your Excellency, usitishike. Iko watu wengi wanapenda kutisha sana. Mimi nilikuwa hapa President Kenyatta akiwa president. After 3 years we had a problem in the government. Jaramogi left. Nilikuwa hapa when Moi was a president. After a few times there was a lot of problems. Nyinyi nyote mnajua until up 1982. Mpaka when he was leaving, kila saa watu bila Moi yote inawezekana. Nimekuwa hapa President Kibaka akiwa kwa kiti mimi, and I served him. Kibaka alitengeneza kila kitu Nairobi, he improved the economy. But 2007, hawa wananchi voted him out. We had to do some ukarabati. Sasa nimekuwa hapa wakati wa Uhuru. Uhuru ni rafiki yangu sana. But you could hardly see him outside the way you are outside, you are visible everywhere. But he managed to finish his 10 years. Hawa wa Kenya unasikia ground ni mbaya. Hapa ground hapana mzuri. Ruto must go. Na sio ground ni mbaya. Wewe anasema ground ni mbaya. Mwenyewe hana ground. Unasikia hiyo? Wacha tuwache Muda amalize kazi yake. I saw watu wa press. Muda ameandika kwa Standard. Anasema atuoli yeye kazi ya trade union court is not a political party. We serve the government of the day. We negotiate for our rights. Huyo kijana anataka elewe hiyo. We are not a political party. We are not aspiring to have a president. We must support the government of the day for the stability in the country, which will be extended to industrial stability. Wewe fanya kazi, kama iko makosa, we are principled. We will come out and say, hatuichi. Kama iko watu ambao ni corrupt, we will tell you and take action. Na usitishwe. Let me take that, Brother Mutua, Waziri, kuja uongee, alafu hizo protocols zingine utaangalia za kuinvite His Excellency the President. President, I thank you very much for honoring this day. May God bless you.
We will be here to continue with those as they are quite important for us to have. We get into our final conversation at this hour. Mushina is in the hot seat. He is a general manager, General Insurance, Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And we're looking at e-mobility, sustainability, and ESG insurance solutions. He will tell us what all of those things are and how we can actually start to navigate these waters. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine.
Karibu sana.
Asante, and I'm happy to be here.
We're glad that you're here and to be able to work out these insights with and for you. But as you are here, we're going to put you to work. This morning, CT goes around the African continent, and every week he comes back from a different country with a basket full of proverbs. He's going to share that with you, and we would like you to then interpret that for us.
Okay.
Okay.
We are in the final day of our proverbs from the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. The proverb: a sensible enemy is better than a narrow-minded friend.
Well, I'd say I haven't traveled as much, but in my interpretation of that is more to do with the extent of knowledge that you can't get from listening to somebody rather than being broad-minded and not being attentive to the details of whatever they're saying. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the great thing about interpretations, isn't it? As we keep saying.
That is the wonderful thing about interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially. So we're getting into a conversation this morning about when we hear these words, sometimes we think a totally different thing from when it comes to insurance. But the insurance conversation has to take us to a place whereby it becomes second nature because we see the benefits of it. But let's start off with, what we've introduced this morning when we talk about e-mobility, when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about ESG, some acronyms that we don't even know what they are. But let's start off with e-mobility when it comes to insurance and give us an introduction into this as we get through.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's been a journey. As you say, the acronyms are what makes things very difficult for us. But I think I'll just take you step by step into what everything means, especially when we talk about e-mobility. Now, all of us maybe all have used a vehicle. And now, the vehicles that were used previous ages, I would say, are what we call internal combustion engine vehicles. Basically, the ones that have a fuel system where you put in, you go to a petrol station, put in petrol or diesel. Then we came to a scenario where we have hybrid vehicles. Some cases we see petrol engines combined with gas. Other instances where we have petrol engines combined with, which are also interconnected with the electric aspect of it. So now, finally, the dawn is here where we are saying, let's put all that aside, think about our environment and the gases that we're emitting, and think about electric vehicles, fully electric, no fuel on that vehicle. Yes.
Okay. So the e-mobility is now when we're talking about they're not combustible, essentially, and now providing insurance for the same.
Definitely.
Okay. And how exactly does that work?
I would say, one, it's in terms of, first of all, appreciating the concerns that have come from the public in terms of us taking care of Mother Nature. And with that, I think United Nations, in essence, have said, no, I think it's high time we started thinking strong and hard about what we need to do from an individual capacity and also from a corporate capacity. So as such, now we are seeing tendencies where people are saying, no, I really don't need to put petrol, use petrol or diesel. Let me, basically charge my vehicle and go around my duties day in, day out. So in essence, that is what it entails. And again, now as for us as the insurers, we are looking at a scenario where we need to also evolve in our mindset and also provide solutions that speak to the evolving risk nature. Because remember, traditionally, the kind of exposures that were there associated with fuel are slightly different from the exposures that we have that are associated with the electrical component. especially when using the roads.
Which begs the question now, traditionally you have been covering ICE, combustion vehicles, in a certain way, but here we are adopting to EVs now, and it's a new area. So how are you adapting to that, and what are some of the areas that you are looking to coverage? Because when you talk about EVs, the battery pack is the biggest thing. Do you cover that as well?
Yes, we do. Again, I'll just go to the main aspect about it, which is looking at how you assess the risk. Now, first things first, when you talk about internal combustion engine vehicles, those ones, what happens in essence is that you go to a valuer who looks at the vehicle, at the chassis frame and the body, okay? And based on that, gives a vehicle, given the external or the exterior view, maybe how the body looks like, the kind of I would say the status of the engine in terms of how well it works, the suspension systems and all that, and attaches a value out of that. Now, when you talk about electric vehicles, now you unpack the chassis from the electrical component of it. Now, what happens that the traditional value, again, we look at the chassis and body bit of it and give a value. Now, the electrical component of it, in essence, basically is usually, lifted up and put there. So, in essence, the manufacturers at any one time give you a value of that. Okay? So, when you're doing insurances, those are two kind of aspects we look for when insuring electric vehicles. Now, traditionally, what we do, because again, remember by law, in Kenya, for you to use the road, you must have what you call that party liability. That's as per the Insurance Act, Cap 405, sorry. So that is a basic one. Now, when it comes to the other aspects, now you insure the chassis, again, comprehensively for material damage as a result of fire, or mainly because of fire and other kind of losses, maybe collision and all that. Then the aspect of the battery, again, you may look at things of breakdown, things associated with breakdown, and again, also the instances of fire. So once you delink all those aspects, you're able to put a value and give comprehensive insurance for all aspects of an e-vehicle. Yes.
Are there enough people in terms of numbers that have then embraced, e-mobility solutions, vehicles being one of them, that then would need to be awareness building then around insurance that you can take to cover those?
Yeah, I think it's a journey for us because even globally, I think China has the highest uptake as per the 2024 numbers, followed by Europe and then US. When it comes to Africa, I think what we are seeing in terms of solutions on e-mobility is the largest uptake, especially in Kenya, is to do with the motor commercial public sector. Okay? Maybe one of us or two of us or all of us have ever hopped into one of these vehicles that are going, especially within the CBD region. So basically, that is where we have seen a lot of uptake. When it comes to individuals, I would say also not really much. What I've seen also is also what I would call the motorbikes that are being used by Uber and the rest. I think there's also a high uptake around that area. Yes, on motorbikes, yeah.
What are some of the risks associated with electric vehicles as compared to traditional vehicles?
Okay, now that's a very good question. I think first is understanding how the dynamics work. Now, when you look at an electric vehicle, first of all, the peak temperature is usually higher than a normal engine, the internal combustion engine vehicle. Normal internal combustion engine vehicles, or what we call ICVs, the peak is around 315 degrees. Now, when you talk about an electric vehicle, it doubles that. It's about 615. Now, when you talk about the source of ignition, especially for a fire, in case of a fire, there's what we call thermal runaway. Maybe in the battery system, one cell malfunctions and spreads the fire across. Okay, then there is an impact as a result of collision. Then last but not least, there's an issue to do with okay, sorry, I lost my thought process there.
Do not worry.
Yeah. So when you look at the ICVs on the extreme, most of the issues are to do with the fuel system and also electric malfunctions. Yes.
Okay. Does the fact that let me paint a picture. Nairobi, when it rains, it floods. With electric vehicles, stima na maji bana utapigwa shock. Is that a concern that one would come and say, I am having my vehicle in Nairobi and I'm concerned about this?
What I would say again, when you look at the fire suppression systems for electric vehicles, they are, I would say, top notch as compared to the internal combustion engine vehicles. Now, interestingly, when you look at the statistics, 25 out of 100,000 vehicles are what would be damaged in case of a fire. Unlike when you look at the ICVs, where we have a case scenario of 1,500 vehicles for every 100,000 vehicle exposure. Okay, so when you look at the kind of fire suppression systems that have been put in place, the likelihood is much higher on ICVs than electric vehicles. Yes.
Okay. So essentially, EVs are much more safer than ICVs.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
When they're on the road and they're being utilized.
Yes.
Remember, they use batteries, and batteries, the source of the longevity of the battery, things like lithium, the process of mining them have always been questioned in terms of what they do in terms of the degradation of the environment and the carbon emissions that come about in the process of actually getting those materials. Yes, but in terms of efficiency and in terms of just the output, in terms of efficiency that you get from an EV vehicle is many more times more than that you'd get from on these petrol or diesel fuel engines. You're talking about 77% of efficiency compared to 20 to 30% of the vehicle that people like myself still use.
So then based on that, how then do you determine what premiums are going to look like in terms of what then you would say, okay, in order to cover yourself, do this? How do you come about that?
Now, when you talk about